Hi everyone, my name is John Snyder. I'm an instructor for Evansville Music Academy, and it's kind of crazy that I'm saying this, but in the year 2021, this is going to be my 21st year of teaching guitar full-time. And it's gone by in a blast actually when I think about it, and I literally have students who are the children of students I had when I first started when they were just kids. So over the years I've picked up a lot of things to help me become a better teacher, but more importantly to help students to be able to put themselves in a position where their learning adventure is a little bit easier and is a little bit more of a straight path. There's no such thing as a straight path, but kind of keep you on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all 12 of these tips. Some of them a little bit longer, some of them are very, very short. And they all apply to new students, and a whole lot of them apply to students even if you've been doing it for a little while. So let's jump in. Tip number 1, materials. This is going to seem like it's a sales pitch. It's not. These are all things that really do help out. And we're going to start with big concept all the way down to little things like a guitar pick. The first thing is the instrument. Now, probably if you're a new student, you already have an instrument. If not, then this little tip could help you out a lot before you even start. And that is to have a guitar that's playable. Now, what that means is you're able to hold down the strings, especially if you're little. If you're a parent of a young student, playing the guitar is kind of a physical thing. Any instrument is, but with the guitar, especially with what we call a fretting hand, you got to be able to hold down these strings. The easier that is, the more likely it is that you or your child will practice. The other tip is try to get a guitar that is size appropriate. If you are this tall and you're trying to learn on a full-size guitar, be it electric or acoustic, it's going to be hard to be in a good position. You could end up starting off lessons learning a bunch of bad habits. Now, if you are this tall and you're learning on a guitar that was given to you, or maybe it was your mom's when she was in college, it's okay. If it's full size, we have ways to get around that as well. But ahead of time, you want to maybe look at those things. If you want to know if your guitar is playable, your teacher will tell you, or you could bring it into the store and they'll let you know. There are ways, if it's could use some tweaking, there are ways to go about that too that are generally fairly inexpensive. But it is very important to have a guitar that's going to make learning to play it easier and not more difficult than it needs to be. The next materials are going to be kind of probably up to teachers. We'll start with books. You may have a teacher that recommends you get a book right away. I don't typically start with books right away. I like to get to know a student, especially if they're brand new. But you'll have to check with the office or check with your teacher to know if you're going to need to get a book. Something else essential, maybe not essential for your lesson, because most of us teachers have tuners, and this is what this is a tuner. Have one, because when you're on your own, you need to be in tune. If you're out of tune, you won't know if you're doing something correctly because it's going to sound bad. And if it sounds bad, you're not going to want to play. That's just the truth of it. The next thing, and this is a good thing to have for lessons, extra set of strings. If you break a string in the middle of your lesson, of course, we are attached to more music. You can run out and you can buy a set of strings or a spare string, but that's taken up quite a bit of your 30-minute lesson. So have an extra set with you, and then along with the strings, one of these gals right here, it's a string winder. This is like cheap. These are inexpensive, and they're just made to make the strings changing go a lot faster. A capo. This is kind of a fancy schmancy capo. You do not just need to buy a fancy capo. They have capos ranging from very, very low cost up to, I can't even tell you what these cost anymore, but it's not as much as a guitar. A capo is something, even if you're not using it right away in your lessons, every guitar player is going to need one of these. And lastly, this is kind of personal preference. You'll have to ask your teacher what they think. I think a footstool is absolutely essential. Now, especially if you're one of those students that's like this, footstool will help you to be able to raise the guitar up. You put your foot on it, raises your leg, brings your guitar up. Now I'm kind of sitting on a stool that's got a built-in footstool. Now you might think, well, I'm 6'2", I don't need one of these. I have found really across the board, having one of these can put the guitar in a much more comfortable position no matter how tall or short you are. And that's materials. Tip number 2, make a list. What do I mean by that? This is for everyone. Make a list of your favorite songs, your favorite bands, your favorite artists, your favorite guitar players. Make them as long as possible. Bring it with you. I like to have my students make their favorite songs, bands, everything. I put it on a dry erase board that's right over my shoulder because the other students love to see what everybody else is into. This makes our jobs as guitar instructors much easier, and it makes it much easier for it to be fun for you. Tip number 3, be on time. If you come late, your lesson starts late, and we have to go by our schedule. If you're 15 minutes late, you're only going to get a 15-minute lesson. Of course, things happen, but do your best to be on time. Whether you are in person or you're doing Zoom, be ready to go. Tip number 4, this is for Zoom. All right, we are in the middle, hopefully it's the winning side of a pandemic. We have a lot of students that are doing virtual lessons now, and some of them it's for health reasons, but for a lot of students, at least personally speaking, Zoom makes more sense for them. If they have typically a long drive, it's easier for them to do it from home. I've also had some students that they don't want to come in because they just don't want to put on a pair of pants, which should be a tip. Wear your pants to lessons, please. I did have one student, I'm not going to say who he is because he might be watching this. He stood up in his lesson, was wearing pajama bottoms. He was wearing a regular shirt on top of pajama bottoms because his mother said that was all he cared to put on that day was pajama bottoms. So as long as you have pants on, that's fine. Zoom tips though, this is so important. Sit where you are well lit. If you sit in front of a window, you're just a dark shadow to us. All we can see is the sunlight coming in behind you. So sit where we can see you. Sit in a spot of the room where it's well lit. And as far as like what we need to see, it's not that we don't like seeing your faces, but if you can't fit it into the shot, it's all right. We need to see the guitar in your hands. So, and if your head's not in the shot, it's bonus because then you could be sticking your tongue out at me and I would never even know. Also with Zoom, and I'm not going to go into this because it's too long, try to set up your audio settings so it's optimized for music instruction. Zoom is not really built for that. It is a video conference software, so they literally have things built into it to filter out anything that doesn't sound like the human voice. There are settings that you can go into in the advanced audio settings. Number 1 being enable. You want to enable original sound. Now, I can't really give you details on how to do each one of those steps because they change their software like every 2 weeks. So it's constantly evolving and constantly changing, and we instructors have to figure out about every 2 or 3 weeks how to guide you through it. But it's Zoom. It's a completely effective, and we're going to talk about Zoom in another tip here in a bit. Tip number 5. Always come to your lesson. Now, this happens all the time. I'll have a student, they didn't have time to practice, so they're just going to skip this week. They'll work on what you gave me last week, and I'll see you next week. Okay, but come in anyways, because at the very least, at least you're still getting 30 minutes of practice time. Odds are we'll probably do something a little bit different. We'll work on that a little bit, but we'll do little like bonus stuff with it as well. You've paid for the time. Come in and get it. You've literally paid for that time to have a guitar in your hands, so take advantage of it. The other thing, now that we're doing Zoom, or we have the ability to do Zoom or virtual lessons, if you're somewhere where you can still do your lesson, you just can't physically be in the building, let's just do it on Zoom. It's there and we can use it all the time. I have used it while I was on vacation. Last summer, I took a trip to Hilton Head And it wasn't my week off, so I just brought all my streaming stuff with me and I did my lessons from Hilton Head. It was fun. Actually, the students really enjoyed getting to see where I was and see everything around me. So always make your lesson the best you can. Number 6, ask questions. This is super important. This is personal experience. Sometimes I tend to go through material kind of fast. You have to slow us down. If we're saying something that you don't understand, don't wait, because the whole week's going to go by and then you're going to come in and we're going to say, did you work on this? And you're going to go, really didn't have any idea what you were talking about, and you've wasted that whole week. So just jump on it. If we say something that you don't understand or asking you to do something you don't understand, or you feel like you're getting ready to walk out of the room without knowing what you're supposed to work on, don't do that. Don't wait. Ask us to be more clear or ask us to slow down. I know all the teachers, none of us have any kind of egos or personal interests that would stop us from saying, okay, I get it. We're all still learning too as teachers. Even after 20 years, I'm still learning how to be effective as well. Tip number 7, consider joining a class. This is, again, personal experience, personal preference. I feel like the best way to learn a music instrument is with some one-on-one instruction, but also in a group setting. All of my students who have done private lessons and also been part of a group have absolutely made huge strides in record time. Being in a class also, I'm just going to say it, it's more fun, at least most of the time. I guess maybe there's been a few times when it wasn't for somebody. It is a fantastic opportunity for you to be able to use the things that you're working on with other people who are kind of at that same level. And some of the examples of classes that I teach and have taught over the years would be the guitar ensemble, which is something I put together to help students who are learning to read standard notation. You're doing it in a group setting. And then, of course, the rock class that I teach, I've been teaching for I think 10 years now. And that's like being in a class where you're in a band, and they get close. I'll tell you, I've had people that were in rock classes together or ensembles that became lifelong friends. Usually what happens is they go off and actually start a real band, and then they leave me and I have to start a new class, which is great. It's always fun to get an email from a student asking if I had any connections with such and such place so they can get a gig there, as if I could get a gig myself. But yeah, being in a group setting, you're working on a whole different level of skills too, listening, playing in time. And it really does. It's amazing how much faster a student progresses by doing both private and class. If you're interested in something like that, just call the office, talk to them. Number 8, show off. What do I mean? Hey, you're doing something here, right? If you're playing something and you're enjoying it and you're proud of yourself, show it off. Somebody in your house that you live with, say, look at this. They might be impressed, they might not be, it doesn't matter. Show off anyways. If everybody in the house has already heard and seen what you could do, call up your grandma or your best friend or somebody, or just walk up to a stranger on the street and say, check this out. It's fun, makes you feel good about yourself, and it makes you hopefully inspired to take the next step to learn something else. Tip number 9, explore. What do I mean? There's a whole world out there. 30 minutes with an instructor is great. We can keep you on track. We can give you tips to be able to reach your goals, but there's so much other information out there, whether it's a friend who also plays or a colleague, or I'll just say it, YouTube. There's so much great information out there. You don't necessarily have to wait for your teacher to hold your hand through everything. If there's something that interests you, dig in, jump in. The odds are that the teacher will be able to help you use those things that you're interested in and that you're finding out in the world to be able to create something or a path that is more accessible and can probably break things down and explain things that is more personal for you. But yeah, get out there, see what else there is to learn and jump in. This should go without saying, but it's not going to go without saying. You got to practice. So this probably should be tip number one, and you would think that everybody would understand this. I've been doing this for a while, and as I'm starting my third decade, I can tell you there are still people that come to me for lessons that think the 30 minutes or 60, if it's an hour, that they get a week is what makes them better. That is, I'm sorry, just not the truth. It's all those other hours, it's all those other days and weeks and months. That is what's going to make you improve. You can't, well, I haven't able to anyways come up with a special word or magic spell to be able to make somebody play guitar. You have to put in the time, and at the very least, what I like to tell people is just pick it up every day. If you don't have time to sit down and get out all your papers and work very focused on something, just pick up your guitar and play. At least then you're keeping your motor skills going. So, big tip, practice, pick it up every single day. This is only for students of parents, or I should say, if you are a parent of a student. Parental involvement is huge. Certain ages, below certain ages, I have parents sit in on every single lesson. And that is because, especially the younger the student is, they can't do this on their own. Like, you can give them something to practice, but 9 times out of 10, by the time they make it to the car, if you've not been in there with them, they can't remember what they're supposed to do. The way that I teach young beginners is very much parental involved, or some sort of adult involvement. Now, does that mean you're going to have to sit in on lessons? Yep. Does it mean you're going to have to help them practice? Yep. Bonus. It also means you're going to kind of get to learn how to play guitar. And this is all the time. This happens that somewhere along the way, the parent goes, this is a lot of fun. And next thing you know, they're taking guitar lessons as well, which is awesome. I have seen some fantastic, I have seen some great bonding is what I'm trying to say, between fathers and sons, mothers and sons, fathers and daughters, and a couple of instances, grandparents and grandchildren, where they were both taking lessons and learning and coming together and really just having a great time. So all of my young students, almost without question, the ones who have been successful, especially really little ones, it is not them and it is not me, it's the parents, and we're kind of all a team. That's how I like to explain it. But the more involved the parent is, the more successful your child's going to be at learning guitar, and I assume pretty much any type of music. And it can't just be go to your room and play. You're going to need to sit and help them, work on things. They will eventually, you won't be able to keep up with them at a certain point, but in the beginning, they're really going to need for you to help out. Finally, tip number 12. This is the easiest one, I hope, and that is to have fun. Everything that's involved with this, getting the guitar, taking lessons, all the practicing, hopefully it's because you enjoy it. One of the most asked questions, or the question I get asked the most, is how long? When? How long will it take before I can play this song? How long before I'm going to get good? How long before my young student is going to sound, a little bit better than they do in the beginning? It's impossible to answer that question. And to be honest with you, I made this list to make the answer to those questions become a little bit faster. You get out of it what you put into it. Now, that said, my answer is always, you have to enjoy the process. If the only way you think you're going to enjoy learning to play the guitar is the end result, I got some bad news for you. I have never met a musician, let alone a guitar player, that has reached the end result. It changes all the time. You get closer to your goal, and then all of a sudden you have new goals. And you'll think that you're going this way, and then something will kind of interest you going that way. It's just how it is, and it's the beauty of it. I still love to play. I have been playing the guitar, I'm not going to say, I'll say it, since 1982, and I love it more than ever. I go through phases where I might not be too excited about picking it up, but still, after all of these years, I love to play. I absolutely love to play. And I think that's what inspires me as a teacher, is that hopefully I can pass that along to you as well. If you find yourself in a position where it just feels like a chore, and it feels miserable, it feels like something you have to do, and not something I have to, you know. Could mean you might be with the wrong teacher. It happens. I've had some students that it wasn't a good match. And if it's, could be what you're working on. But if it's thing after thing after thing you try and it's still not any fun, it might not be for you. You might want to pick up the oboe or something else. I don't know. But the end result should always be fun. We know it's a struggle. We know that it takes work and it takes effort, but you have to enjoy the process. You have to enjoy every cool sound you make, every correct sounding chord, and every song that you can play, even if it's just the beginning of it. You know, it's all part of the joy of it. And I understand not everybody's going to love it the way people like I do, but if you're into it, it's never going to be a bad decision. You're never going to regret picking up the guitar and learning how to play. It's something that you will be able to do forever. And my name is John. Again, I am here for Evansville Music Academy, and these have been 12 tips to hopefully make your music learning or guitar learning adventure a little bit more easy. And I can't wait to see you all, pass you all in the hallways, whether you're a student of mine or not, and hear you all through the music rooms. Thanks for watching.